Thank you.
So we'll call this meeting to order, and hopefully we'll have our guest speaker available to us shortly. This afternoon, we will be doing a member induction, but before we get to that, we will start with any happy thoughts. So I'll just start off. We called it a board meeting on Monday night. We did go over a bit of business. And if Genevieve doesn't show up, I'll be sharing a bunch of that with you. But we were saying goodbye to Bruce Ross and his wife Cheryl. And Bruce and Cheryl are heading to Meaford by the end of the week. So things are packed up and they're ready to go. Their daughter had ended up with a case of COVID. She was double vaccinated, but had not quite had enough time on that second vaccination. She did struggle a little bit. She was quarantined in her room, and she did lose sense of smell and sense of taste. She is going to remain in the Chatham area with friends and family, and because she's got 2 different jobs that she's currently working at here. And Bruce and Cheryl will be heading to Meaford right shortly. So definitely, we all indicated that we were going to miss them. It was a fun evening. We got together outdoors, watching for the rain. We had a little bit of spit here and there, but not too bad. I think in total, there were 16 of us. And we titled it Wine and Rap. So there was a little bit of a beverage going around, and but it was just enjoyable to finally have a bit of a get together. And I'm hoping the same type thing when I'm hoping in mid-September, we will try our first in person and see how we do with numbers that come up. Well, that's my happy thought. Are there any others to share? Peter, please.
Our daughter, who normally lives in Singapore, and her husband are visiting Canada, the first time outside of Singapore for nearly 2 years. And they're visiting his family in Ottawa first, and then they'll be visiting us for a week starting next Tuesday. It's nice to see children that you haven't seen in 2 years.
Yeah. Any grandchildren there, Peter?
We have 3 grandchildren, but they all live in Canada.
Ah, good.
And if there are any questions about the Guatemala, both to the committee and to our club, so that if there are any questions, let me know.
Okay. And as you can see, Genevieve has joined us, and she's must be sitting out at one of the trails someplace.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just on the around the river road. We just had an issue with the project, so I just had to come out here and consult with one of our engineers. And then I looked at my watch and was like, "I'm late. I gotta go."
Do you want to stay with us? Maybe what we could do is we'll move right to you and give you that opportunity, and then we'll continue with our other business afterwards, if you like.
Yeah, that would actually be wonderful. I have the presentation up here, so I can just open it up and share my screen, if you like.
So first of all, we'll welcome Genevieve Champagne. She is in charge of CK Trails, and I'm going to ask Barry if he would do an introduction for us.
Well, thanks, President Brett, and especially over to you, Genevieve. Yeah, I would term Genevieve as a significant friend of the Chatham Rotary Club. So Genevieve Champagne, is that how you say it in French, Genevieve?
My name in French is Genevieve Champagne.
Ooh, that's even better than the way I tried to do it. So she's in the active transportation and special events coordinator section for the Municipality of Chatham-Kent, and has been there for the last 5 years. She has her Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Guelph in landscape architecture, with a specialty in trail development and accessibility. And bingo, that's exactly what she's doing here in Chatham-Kent. with her young family, they have settled nicely here in Chatham-Kent, which they now call home, and where they have taken on the adventure of renovating their home that was built in 1876. Sounds like a museum to me.
It is a museum.
I hope. So when you take the wallpaper off, do you find special notes underneath there or the newspapers from back at that time?
When we take the wallpaper off, we find like 13 other layers of wallpaper.
That sounds
It's
like
the horsehair plaster. It's very old. We love speaking tubes and all the little like Down Abbey-ish things. So we have like when they had like little bells in each room that would indicate to the staff in the kitchen to help them in each of their rooms. So we still have the original fridge from when a fridge was created.
yeah. Excellent.
So yeah.
Well, that's thanks, Genevieve, and over to you.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen here.
Genevieve, can I just interject? You're okay if we record this? We put them on YouTube?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right. So,
That's pretty good if you can do all this from your car.
I had my laptop with me because I was out on the road anyways. So do you see, just trying to set it up to view. I'm not. Okay,
There we go.
so stop my video for a second. All right, so active transportation in Chatham-Kent trails. Yeah, we're just right now with just to give you guys a brief overview of the Rotary Eco Trail, which is approximately 1,600 meters long. It's 2 meters wide and it's made of granular material. Recently, we purchased, they're called eco counters. So they're not cameras, but they're essentially infrared sensors that will detect when someone walks by them. It is very accurate. So what happens is when you're walking by them, if there's two of you walking beside each other, it will count both of you. So as long as you're not perfectly walking in tune with each other, if you're slightly off, it will definitely count both of you. It does count dogs every so often, but hey, the dogs are using the trail too. So, I did 2 studies. So I did a winter study and I'm currently in our summer study. So our winter study went from October to April. In April, we did have vandalism. So I did remove the counter until I got a replacement counter for the trail. So over the winter, we saw 39,468 total users. Of that, we can break it down further into 315 daily was our daily average on a weekend, and 206 was our daily average during the week, with an overall daily average of 231 users. The usage time was between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., which makes sense for how the sun rises and sets during the winter. So essentially, as soon as people can get out there and see, they were on that trail. And we saw steady usage during a time series. So that whole time that it was out, there wasn't like any specific peaks or like ditching or anything. It was very consistent. It went up and down as each month, but it wasn't significant in its if one month got more usage than another necessarily. However, we did notice that the lowest use was in February, which was the coldest month of the year, because we do have a weather analysis with this program. So it shows us how much rain, how cold it is. I can select pretty much like cloud cover and everything like that. So right now I just kind of have it selected on temperature and precipitation. So we notice that coldest temperature, lowest usage. Now for the summer, we reinstalled the counter beginning of June, and it will stay up at least until November if all goes well, to try to get another 6 months steady. So far with our current number, so since June 2nd, we've seen 19,767 total users. The daily average on weekends was 285, and during the weekdays is 284, with a daily average overall is 282. So we're seeing now consistent numbers kind of across the board, no matter what day of the week it is. Where in the winter it was only on weekends that we saw that higher number. The time of usage, again, it does correlate with the sunshine, so it's from 6 a.m. to at least 8 p.m. Again, a steady usage for the time series, and the lowest usage during the largest rainfalls that we've had. So if there is a significant rainfall, people are still using the trail. They're just not that many at that point. The eco counter studies for daily use. So I've purchased more counters at this point. So we have 2 different types of counters. We have a multi-use pathway counter, which does pedestrian and cyclists. But we also have a trail study that does just pedestrians on our trails. So multi-use pathways, we have Bloomfield, Erio, Greenfield Global, and the Kyle Drive North Trail. And as you can see here, the numbers kind of vary. So Erio is our outstanding multi-use pathway of the year so far, where it's seeing 1,493 people daily use that multi-use pathway. And that's the one that goes right down the center of Erio on Erio Road. Where the other ones we're seeing what I feel like is what I expect. Bloomfield is 54 users a day. And it was added to help aid in the travel of our immigrant workers and our greenhouse workers out there, which is great to see that they are using it, and that we do have at least 54 people a day using that, which is amazing. Greenfield Global and Kyle Drive are also seeing significant numbers of 179 to 188 daily, which is great. We're also noticing that during the winter study that I did take of Greenfield Global, we did notice that it was commuter based. So people would come in at around 9 in the morning and leave the city around 5 p.m. So we were seeing that kind of those commuters of people coming in to go to work and leaving afterwards, which is what we want to see. We want to see our commuter routes being used for commuting as well as recreation. And then we have a trail study. So I have a number of trail counters that just do pedestrian at this point. They'll be rotated every month to a different trail just so that we can capture as much data as we can this year. So these were all installed on July 23rd. The last 2 on the list were staggered just because I couldn't get out to those communities on July 23rd, as it does take some time to install and uninstall these guys. So the BFIT Trail in Blenheim, we're seeing 81 average. Crothers is 113. Erio Marsh Trail right now is 267 or 265. The community park in Mitchell's Bay is 90. Mud Creek sees 389 daily average. Rotary's at 281. Trees Trails at 33. Trillium Trails at 62. And Northside Trail in Tilbury is at 11, but it's only been installed for just over a week now. So the other ones have had a couple weeks or about 3 weeks-ish to collect data. The next one is our trail accessibility. So I get the question a lot about which trails are accessible. And really all of our trails are accessible. We try to make sure that we build them with accessible materials as well as make sure that they're accessible widths. So with that being said, if you ever get asked the question, yes, all of our trails are accessible. All trails are constructed from either crusher dust, which is that limestone screening, asphalt, or concrete. And then all trails are made to a minimum width of 1.2 meters wide and up to 3 meters wide. And the crusher dust is a limestone product that when compacted and then rained upon, it becomes a hard surface. It does get soft when it's rained on, but it will re-harden as that water evaporates. But it's also material that is can be renewed by being groomed and fluffed up and then recompacted. It also allows us to groom it. We try to groom at this point on an annual basis or a biannual basis. So when it's worked up, and then we can have staff kind of like rake out the overgrowth and then replace it with another layer of crusher dust. However, due to the cost of adding crusher dust to all the trails, we can only do approximately half of our trails a year. So they're essentially on a biannual rotation. We also get asked a lot about our trail connectivity. So our Trails Master Plan has the trail connectivity built into it. So as we work through that plan, we work with our community partners and we try to make sure that the network connects together to ensure that we meet the needs of the community. The Rotary Eco Trail may seem disconnected as it's a woodlot behind a park. However, it is connected and it connects all the way down to Kingston Park and to Grand Ave. We just have to look at the connection. So we do have a new map. It's called our CK cycling map, which we show all the cycling routes that we have and infrastructure that we're building, suggested routes that our local cyclists have picked out as key connectors, and then our trails. So as you can see, as the example here, we have our Rotary Sunrise Trail on Grand Ave. Then we have our community services pathway that comes up. And then we do have this little tiny section that crosses a bridge, and it's called the John N. Given connection because the John N. Given school is located there. You would then come up Craven Drive and cross the street to go to the Tecumseh Public School Trail. And then you would exit at the back there and go, I think it's along Perry Drive, or I think it's Perry, up to Perry to Oxley Drive, which would then connect to Mid-wood Oxley Park. You could then walk the Rotary Eco Trail. We do have a connection along the drain, but it's not a formalized connection as that property is owned by a private owner. So you can technically still walk from the Rotary Eco Trail over to Orangewood if you wanted to walk along the drain. It's possible. It's just not our property, so we can't necessarily advertise it as an option. So we recommend going down Oxley up to Orangewood, and then you can go from the Brown Drain and connect into Kingston Park. And then if you go across St. Clair Road, you can go past that playground and the baseball diamonds and connect it up to our bike lanes on Victoria. So we do try to make sure our communities are connected as much as we can. And we're always working on it. The John N. Given connection was paved this year, which has been something we've looked at for multiple years now. It's just getting it done. And then this is the cycling map. You're able to obtain these from our libraries, from our municipal centers. You just have to ask someone from behind the counter. Just due to COVID, we don't want everyone just touching a product and then putting it back. If you're going to ask for it, we're very happy to give it to you. You can also pick them up from our PABC Park Ave Business Center across from the Glass House Nursery. We have some there as well. And if you want to pick up multiples, just let me know and I can put out an envelope there with your name on it and you can just pick it up from the front entry there. Same, if you ever need more, you can always contact our libraries. And before they were doing curbside pickup, but I believe you can go in now and just ask for one and get one there. But essentially what it shows here is it shows our municipality as a whole. And we have very specific routes that cut through Chatham-Kent. The waterfront trail is in pink. The Trans-Canada Trail is in orange. Right now I'm sitting on the Round the River route, which is our green route, but it also connects with the Trans-Canada and the waterfront trail. So it shows those connections, and we're hoping eventually that we can sign the whole municipality with these color-coded systems. Now the Trans-Canada and the waterfront trail have their own signage. That's part of their signage plan. But what we would do is we create essentially a share the road signage plan that would show a color coordination with the purple, or on the Round the River route, we'd show CK trails with this color coding of these green and orange and pink and green. And then as you get up to Mitchell's Bay, you'll see signage again with the Bay line or bike lane that will show pink and orange, showing that you're on the Trans-Canada, and on the waterfront trail and on a connector route. So that one has 3 colors. I think we only did 2 on our signage, but just so that it's not overly confusing. But we're trying to show that the map is correlated with our signage, and then it shows the connectivity of Chatham-Kent. And these routes were, it was 3 years in the making to make these routes. Our Chatham-Kent Trails Council worked closely with our Wallsburg Trails, our South Kent Trail groups, our cycling advocates, and they all kind of put in their, we started with a map and we essentially had all of the roads highlighted as what people like to cycle. And then we narrowed it down to what was safe, what they felt was safe as cyclists, what they're willing to cycle on. And this is not cycling for mom. I would never cycle on these roads with my children because we're not avid cyclists. We're trail cyclists, but not road cyclists. So this map is mainly as a guide, and they're not signed routes just yet. Eventually we'll get there, but it's one step at a time. And then the back of this map, I don't have it on here, but essentially it shows all the communities like on the side panel here of the cycling infrastructure in each community with the trails highlighted as well. So you can see that connectivity. Our impact from COVID. So in COVID-19, we definitely did have an impact on our recreational activities overall. However, since trail use was permitted, and due to the ability to socially distance and have family groupings, trails were allowed to stay open, which with everything else closed, increased the demand for trails. We actually saw in the Rotary Eco Trail, which is one of the things that I was trying to get the counter in time for, was we were going out there and there was 100 people an hour on that trail just because they needed out and they needed to be active, and people just needed that reprieve from being in their homes all the time. Trails are lucky because we have less touch features along them. We essentially just have benches and then some signage, but most of them are very touchless. And you just have to respect the space that you're in. But that made it a prime activity that wouldn't be shut down, which was really nice. And it also increased usage. So I think it brought its awareness to our Ontario government higher because we're now seeing a lot more grants come forward for active transportation during this COVID pandemic. So trail maintenance. So just to briefly touch on trail maintenance again, it's done on an annual and biannual basis. So the annual stuff is getting it groomed, and we'll go out on a request. It's hard to go and check 55 trails on a regular basis. So what we do is we rely on the public to file active citizen requests. So all you have to do is call our customer service line. Just let us know if there's brush overtaking a trail or a branch or a tree has fallen over it. And we'll get staff out there to clean it up and get it back in working order. But if a tree falls over a weekend, we necessarily don't know about it until someone tells us that it's occurred, just because they're so rural in some of these pathways that I'm not going to be out there. Like, I'll be in the office working on paperwork or out doing a site meeting for another project before I'll find out that a tree fell in Ridgetown. The trail groomer is used by each area supervisor. So what that means is we have area supervisors that look after an area. So like Deb Vetcha looks after Chatham, Grand Point, Mitchell's Bay, and Pancor. And then like Brad Tuckwell looks after like the Dresden area. So each area supervisor looks after a certain area section of the municipality. What they do is they'll take the trail groomer and they'll have their staff go and groom the trails for me. And then I'll bring in a contractor that will then top it up by a couple inches. Again, due to the number of trails, they're not all topped up every year. They're kind of topped up every other year. And we try to do, again, 2 inches. The rain helps compact them into a semi-solid surface, which is accessible. And then again, the brush clearing, just let us know if we need to get out there, and we'll get it cleaned up as much as we can. We try to be pretty responsive on those. And I think that is it. Are there any questions?
Great. So I'll ask anybody, if you have a question, if you can raise your hand and I'll get you on the list here. Very, I was expecting one.
Yes, so Genevieve, thank you. Very, very well done. In my introduction, I don't think I mentioned that the topic of today fits very well with Rotary International's area focus of the environment, which really got started on July 1st this year. So the timing is good here.
Perfect.
You're kicking us off well. I might have missed it, but if I ask it, you can say so. So the Eco Trail is going to be topped up, as I understand it, this year. That's still in the works.
Yep, it's still in the works. We've had a little bit of an issue with this year. I decided to, instead of tendering each project individually, I decided to try a roster like our drainage and our engineering teams do. So we've done that, but then we had a little bit of hiccups in our legal department where they got kind of bombarded with other stuff. So my roster kind of got put to the bottom of the list. So we finally got the roster approved and the contracts all written up and signed by our contractors. So Harris Brothers is our top contractor for trail maintenance, for topping them up. And then he kind of had an issue with his little paver. So the trails get topped up with a paving machine. So the reason we use a paving machine is because a tractor can load it with the crusher dust and it can be set to an exact depth. So we can say we want 2 inches of crusher dust and then compacted. So then that we know that we're actually getting 2 inches of crusher dust instead of someone kind of bringing a tractor in and dumping it and kind of trying to level it out with like the back of the bucket. So this way it's just nice and smooth. It moves right along the trail. We found that it works really well. So we just use a paver for it, but his little paver that does the smaller trails, like the 1.2 meter, had broken down and needed a new engine. So we're working with that. He's supposedly got the engine yesterday. So hopefully we get those on. Deb, I talked to Deb Vetcha today about it, and she is going to start grooming the trails, I believe, next week for the Chatham trails. So then we'll get all the trails groomed for Chatham, Mitchell's Bay, and Pancor. And then those will be topped up shortly. We did Erio's completed. But so Rotary Eco Trails getting topped up, and then school trails are getting topped up as well. So we're trying to get those topped up before school starts. And then Perry Landing hasn't been topped up quite some while. That one is just in Pancor at Winter Line on Grand. And it has a little dock. So if you like to canoe or kayak, it has a little dock that you can set off from. It does get removed in the wintertime because the Thames River will rip it apart.
And that's right beside Andy.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, so we're working on the maintenance. It will get done hopefully by fall.
Somebody has launched a canoe while you have been speaking. I have been watching them.
Oh, really?
Literally out that window, you can see right to where you're speaking there, Genevieve.
That's awesome. Someone lost a canoe. Oh, no.
No, they've just launched it. They're going.
Oh, launched it. I thought you said
not lost. Are there any other questions for Genevieve?
Could I ask on the width of the trails, the construction of the one widening of the Grand River line? I'm wondering whether or not when you gave the statistics, I think it was what 1.2 meters or something, the distance, and I'm wondering if the trail between the edges of the asphalt and the hydro poles coming along Grand Avenue West is whether it's the Grand River line, whether that distance is there.
Yes. So when we originally made the designs for the Round the River route, the designs were for a 1.5 meter pathway, and quite a few of the hydro poles would have had to either been moved or the trail would have had to been narrowed in those sections. Now, when we put it out to tender last year, we reduced the size because we didn't quite have the budget to do a 1.5 meter. As you know, that would be just that exponentially with the length would price us probably over our budget. So we reduced it to a 1.2 meter, which is the minimum width that you have to do for a bike lane. And we should have the width on all of it, except for maybe, I think there's one hydro pole on Riverview line by Trues. But I think we have enough roadway width that we'll just have to paint the white line over into the roadway, because a roadway has to be a minimum of 3 meters wide. So I think we're good. It just, we have to modify where the yellow line goes on one of the roads.
And what is the time? I mean, you're working on this now. When do you expect completion? And the other thing is what is the interaction with the laying of cables?
So the completion date is expected to be completed October 31st. Now they are making really good head time. We were delayed a bit because we were waiting for the locates. The locates had about a 6 to 8 week lag. And then on top of it, the fact that this project is such a large project, I think we actually just have one GTEL guy that works for this project. So he's out doing all the locates. So as we get the locates done, they can access more of the project. And then they're making pretty good headway with the overall project. Riverview line they have most of the asphalt base in until Bloomfield. So once they're done milling ground, they'll come in with a leveler or a grader and they'll grade it out. And then they'll come in and do the asphalt base. And then I believe that they're going to do all of the asphalt top coat at the same time, and then do the line painting. They keep kind of changing how it gets done because the subcontracted paving, they have to complete some other engineering projects that they have on the go as well. So they keep taking their paver off our project and going to do other paving projects for the municipality. So it's the paver somewhere working for us, just somewhere around here. So overall, it should be done by October 31st, but I'm hoping for an earlier completion. They're doing well. And then the fiber is a separate contract altogether. However, it goes along the trail just in respect that is within our road allowance. So where they're working is essentially, they've worked it with engineering with doing that. It goes either in the gravel shoulder or just on the other side of our gravel shoulder to ensure that accessibility if they ever need to work on it, but also it's just done by Clark Construction is doing it as well. Just as they do this project, they plow it in and get it in there. So everyone gets fiber internet while we get a bike lane.
Thanks, Genevieve. Any other questions? Okay, so I just want to thank Genevieve. I've met her a couple of times out at the Rotary Eco Trail, and it is very much appreciated. You know, the counter and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we also met one of the times when somebody decided to bash the daylights out of the counter that was in there, thinking there might be a few bucks worth of something to them. And but it wasn't too long before Genevieve had a little bit different counter in there, had to find another place, and hopefully we won't have anybody messing us up with that one, because it's kind of nice to see just how many people are making use of the trail. And with COVID, the numbers have definitely increased. So it's kind of nice to see that. So thank you again, Genevieve, and we'll let you go if I'm sure you've got many things on the go just now. So thank you very much for making it available to us and for the information. Take care.
Good. Have a great day. Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Genevieve.
Bye.
So before we get moving too much farther, I have one very important duty that I would like to get done today, and that is the induction of Tina Hodgson. So unfortunately, Tina, your sponsor, Allison, is not available to be with us, so you're stuck with us. But we're around on most cases, so we're quite happy. So let me just start this procedure. Today, we are honored to induct a new member, Tina Hodgson, to the Rotary Club of Chatham. Tina has demonstrated that being a Rotarian is important to her, and we hope that she finds this a great fit. We hope you'll continue to be a proud representative of Rotary and judge yourself by the Rotary four-way test of the things that you think, say, or do. I'd ask you to repeat after me, Tina. Is your microphone off?
I believe it's on.
All right. Is it the truth?
Is
If
it
you'd
the
repeat.
truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
On behalf of the Rotary International, we welcome you into our global family. Because of these uncertain times, we'll be sending you or making available your official packet and Rotary pin. So this is our presentation of your pin, but we'll make sure that you get a real live one not too distant future. And very happy that this is our centennial year now that Rotary Club of Chatham is, and you're the first inductee of the centennial year. So welcome to Chatham Rotary, Tina.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, the next thing will be, okay, which jobs are we going to have you work on? So if you're available on a Tuesday night, come on out to the studios at Kojiko, and we'll get you primed in for something there, one way or another. We'll figure it out.
That sounds great.
Thank you very much. We wish you all the best with our club. And that last membership date that I had was January of 2008. So, but I would guess that Keith and Barry, Andy, they would all know him. And his wife has made, if donations come in, one of the things to donate to would be the Rotary Club of Chatham. So that's very much appreciated. Let's see. So this year, our club anniversaries this month are Rob Watson, who also had a birthday this month, and Colin McGregor is 24 years. Sparky Leonard is 23 years. I hit 11 years tomorrow. No, I hit 11 years today. Donna Litwin Makey is 10 years in coming up. So those are our members that are celebrating anniversaries. At our board meeting the other night, I did indicate a bit of information with regard to our bingo sales. I can easily track what the amount brought in is and what goes out as far as the prize winnings. So that's kind of the number that I work on. And for June, we basically made the gross profit of about $3,039. And currently for July, $2,767, although there's a couple of vendors yet to come in on that, so that quite likely would increase. One of the other things, I'd sent out a memo a short time ago. Chatham Rotary Club is a bronze hero with Shelterbox Canada. And we're going to be starting up a campaign shortly with regard to possibly the club matching some member funds and all of that going into Shelterbox. So that'll be on the go. As well, coming up soon, we'll be starting our Polio for Pizza, or sorry, Pizza for Polio. And at the same time, there's a new program on pints for polio. So if you happen to know anybody that drinks beer, there will be some nicely labeled End Polio Now beer available from Sons of Kent. And they're going to have a couple of days where they will be selling it from the brewery. And they've asked a few of us to make ourselves available to give them some assistance at that time. Dave McGuire will be coming up in a couple of weeks, and he'll be speaking to us. Tina, I had one other thing for you. Originally, I had 2 dates, so if that August 25 would work, that would sit into ours. And then at the same time, to Jennifer, I put an adjustment onto the speakers list to indicate that. And what we're trying to do is have Tina available to adjust a little bit. And Mayor Caniff will come in and talk to us on the other date. So I think that is to be right around the 1st of September, and Tina would be the end of August. So we get her inducted and we get her on a classification talk in a very short order. Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to mention is we are always looking for members that would want to stand on the board, as well as assist us any way they can with regard to bingo. And I'd sent out a little note and asked about how members felt about in-person meetings. I'm thinking possibly mid-September. And just for the group that I've got on board now, are there any thoughts with regard to in-person? If you could raise your hand and give me what you're thinking. Andy, please.
Yes, I admit is all right, but has the decision been made that we are going back to the links, or have other places been thought about, or anything done in terms of any thought of changing the place? Not that I'm saying we should, just that has that, if we're going to be done, that would be the time to do it.
It would be a good time to do it. It's just that at this point, not having sort of anybody get together to discuss moving to someplace else and then going through the procedure of moving. If we go to Links of Kent, I'm thinking probably about a month from now. And I'm not sure we could track down another venue that would work suitably for us. The Links of Kent can handle up to 50. So as far as social distancing, we would be relatively good for that. But as mentioned, just when we started, I would ask for members come back that are double vaccinated. I just think it's safe for all of those in attendance. And I mean, we kind of know from the Bruce Ross situation, you know, even the second vaccination, sometimes you could get a bit of an issue. Neither Bruce or his wife Cheryl had any problem and didn't get sick when his daughter did. But his daughter, as I said before, was it was a situation with the second vaccination hadn't had its full time to be in place at that point. So right now, I would say we would look to heading back to Links of Kent. Our other question that we'll be working towards is how much of our stuff do we need to get moved back in there? So we'll probably go kind of light at the beginning and then try to figure out, you know, other situations or what we can do. Anyone else, any thoughts with regard to in-person? Go Karen and then Jennifer.
Yeah, no, I think that is a good idea, Brett. I like the idea of the double vaccination being required. I think that's good. I think the Links is a good place. So I'd be all right with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Jennifer?
I would just like to say how much I enjoyed the other evening with the board members, and to see people in person and talk to them was amazing. You know, it's like really something special.
And I'm hoping in a month we can do that with the with our club, or as many members as we can get out. The one thing with the Links of Kent, we do have to give them a minimum of 30. So that then could inflate our meal cost a bit, but I think we'd be happy to get ourselves back there at that point. Peter?
Would we do a simultaneous Zoom? Would it be like Zoom / in person, or how do you see that happening?
I would like to see that happen. I'm not the technical guy to figure that all out, Peter.
I'm not sure how to do it either. I was in one meeting like that in Tilbury a year ago, and it was very awkward.
Yeah, I
know
think
other
one of the,
groups do it.
yeah, maybe I'll have a conversation with you in a little bit and we'll chat about what we could try and do.
Some of the American, I mean, since the Americans clubs have gone back probably prematurely, but they've gone back much earlier than we have. I think they've had some more experience with a hybrid Zoom meeting.
Yes, and I attended one seminar that Karen Gabry's put on about going to hybrid. And it was interesting. She had indicated that, you know, there is possible some help from the district doing it. But we'll have to tap them on the shoulder and see what we could do. So
The main thing is internet, the Wi-Fi at the links has usually kind of been somewhat flaky in the past. And we perhaps need to talk to them to make sure that they have decent Wi-Fi in the room.
yeah, that's just make a note on that. Okay. Anything else? All right, so that will conclude our meeting for today. And I'll ask Julia if you wouldn't mind playing us out, please. Thank you, Julia. Welcome, Tina.
You're welcome.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Yep.
Bye.